And the first investment that I want to talk about is a growth investment. This is just investing your money into something like the broad United States economy. That way you can see the value of your investment grow. And there's a couple different ways that you can play this, some which are less volatile than others. The first one is just to invest your money into the broad United States economy by investing your money into the S&P 500. That's a group of the 500 largest companies in the stock market. The idea being now, you're not just investing your money into the American economy, you're investing your money into the 500 largest companies in the American economy which trade on the stock market. Now the nice thing about this is if one of those companies start to struggle, you don't have to worry about it. For example, Sears used to be a part of the S&P 500. They were one of the largest companies in the world. Well, if you invested in the S&P 500, you would have owned Sears. Well, Sears eventually started to struggle. And when they fell out of the S&P 500, if you would have invested directly into the Sears stock, you would have saw your money go to zero. But if you invested into an S&P 500 fund, that fund would have kicked Sears out and replaced it with another company once it fell out of the S&P 500. So there's a couple of funds that will give you exposure to this S&P 500. One example is SPY, SPY. Another example is VOO, VOO. As a disclosure, I'm personally invested in VOO. Now these two funds are almost identical. They just have slightly different expense ratios and slightly different holdings which they prioritize over the other, but they're essentially the same in that they both invest in the top 500 companies in the stock market. The idea being this is a way just to give you broad exposure to the United States economy, and we have seen historically over the last 100 years, the S&P 500 has grown by around 10% a year. If you want to get a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more volatile, now, instead of investing into the top 500 companies, you can invest into the top 100 companies that are not financial. This is called the NASDAQ 100. And what we have seen is that the top 100 companies which are not financial are primarily tech companies. Now, if you've been paying attention to any of the economic or financial news, you know how much attention has been going into technology. Well, if we just want to own the top 100 companies which are not financial, that is the NASDAQ 100. And what we've seen over the last number of decades is that the NASDAQ 100 has grown faster than the S&P 500. But there's a catch. It's more volatile. When markets go up, the NASDAQ 100 goes up even faster. When markets go down, the NASDAQ 100 goes down even faster because there's more speculation in here and there's a lot of kind of excitement and emotion in the NASDAQ 100. But if you wanted to get a little bit more aggressive, but still want broad exposure to the American economy, one way you can do that to the NASDAQ 100 is through a fund like QQQ. Now, I've got to remind you, I cannot tell you what to invest in. Investing has risks. You are never guaranteed to make money when you invest. In fact, you will lose money at some point, so make sure you always do your own due diligence and never blindly trust a random guy on YouTube. I'm just here to give you examples that way you can start thinking like an investor instead of me trying to tell you what to invest in, because what's right for me might not be right for you. The second type of investment you want to have before you turn 50 is an investment for income. The idea being, if you were to stop working tomorrow, how are you going to continue paying your bills, eating, and paying for your mortgage and your travel? You need an income to do that. One option is you just sell off some of your investments every year. But I don't like that idea, because if I have to keep selling my investments, I'm going to keep losing my assets. But what if now my investments just pay me money? Every month or every 3 months, it just deposits money into my bank account, and now I can live off of these dividends. I can live off of this interest. That's what it means to invest for income. I love this type of income investing because now you can just work to stack the income. You never have to worry about selling your investments, and you can live off of this income. The reason why people hate it is because it takes more time to actually build and grow. But if you have the time, if you have at least a decade ahead of you, you have the ability to build solid income if you stay consistent. So let me go over a couple ways that you can invest for this type of income. Example number one is SCHD. As a disclosure, I'm personally invested in SCHD, and the way that SCHD works is that this invests in about 100 high-quality dividend-paying companies in the United States. These are not just companies that have been paying out dividends, but also been working to increase their dividends year after year. At the time of me recording this video, SCHD is paying out a dividend of around 3.3% a year. But where it gets even more interesting is that over the last 10 years, they have worked to increase their dividend by approximately 11% a year on average, which means they are growing their dividends significantly faster than the inflation rate. That's one of the advantages of investing for income, is you want to think about where can you invest your money for income where your income is exceeding the rate at which inflation is growing. Because if your money is growing faster than inflation, you are becoming wealthier. Example number 2 is an ETF called DGRO. DGRO is an ETF that's a little bit broader. It holds about 400 different United States companies which have had at least 3 years of consecutive dividend growth. At the time of recording this video, DGRO is paying out a dividend of around 2% a year, but they've also been working to increase their dividend year over year over the last 10 or so years by approximately 8% a year. The third asset that you want to own before you turn 50 is real estate. And there's 2 different types of real estate that people think about. Number 1 is the home that you live in. Number 2 is actual real estate as an investment. And I want to talk about the home that you live in first, because one of the things that I talk about pretty often is that your house that you live in is not an investment. But the reason why I say that is because a lot of people think that if I go out and buy a big house that I can't afford, then I'm investing my money because my mortgage payment is my investment. That is a losing way of thinking. The person that gets rich is your realtor because they get a bigger commission, and your mortgage banker because they get a bigger commission. Now, I'm not against you buying a house. In fact, I want you to buy a house. I think it's better for you to buy a house than if you rent a house. But you have to know how to buy a house that you can afford, because if you're buying a house, now you have no more money to actually invest your money, well, now you are becoming poorer because of that house, because now anytime something goes wrong, the roof starts leaking, the window breaks, the AC stops working, money has to come out of your pocket, and you're constantly just working to maintain and live in the house as opposed to actually building wealth while living in the house. So that's the first thing that I want you to understand. Now, it is good to own a house because when you own a house, well, you can reach a point where you don't have to worry about mortgage payments anymore. Plus, you can lock in your mortgage payments if you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, versus when you rent a house, well, now you have to worry about rent hikes year after year because of inflation. So that's the benefit of owning. But what I really want to talk about, the bigger advantage, the bigger value, is when you talk about being a real estate investor. Because as a real estate investor, you get to actually benefit from inflation. The idea being that you're going to go out and buy this house, but you're not buying it for you to live in yourself. You're going to buy it for somebody else to live in and use. So if you can go out and you buy this house for $300,000 and you can rent it out to a family and they're going to pay you, let's call it $3,000 a month, well, now you've done 3 things. Number 1, you own a hard asset. You own something that you can see, feel, and touch. Compare that to buying a stock in the stock market. If you buy a share of Amazon, well, you don't actually see, feel, and touch anything that you own. If you walk into the Amazon factory, nobody knows who you are. The second advantage with real estate is you get steady cash flow, because the goal is now that you're making this $3,000 a month, and now you take this income that the tenants are paying you, you pay for all of your expenses, your property taxes, your insurance, your maintenance, your management fees, and your vacancy costs, and your mortgage if you have one. And then you put some money into your pocket every single month. You might be making, let's just call it $300 a month of profit. But this is money coming into your pocket every single month that you don't have to go to work to earn. And no, you shouldn't be plunging the toilets either. You should have a property manager dealing with the day-to-day. So this is money coming into your bank account every single month without you having to go to work. And the third benefit, and probably the biggest benefit here, is the tax breaks that you can qualify for. As a licensed attorney who's not your attorney, I can tell you that real estate has some of the biggest and best tax breaks that our tax code has to offer. That's why we have many real estate investors that make huge sums of money, millions of dollars a year, that pay little to no money in taxes 100% legally. It's because you get to qualify for something called depreciation. And what depreciation is you get to tell the IRS, hey, my property is 1 year older, and because my property is 1 year older, I deserve a tax write-off. Even if your property goes up in value, your property could go from $300,000 to $500,000. You still get that tax write-off. Even if you're making money every single month, you still get that tax write-off. This allows you to make money and pay less to no money in taxes legally, because that's what the IRS tax code says. Now, yes, you can get exposure to the real estate space through the stock market as well, but you're not going to get these same benefits that I just talked about. You're not going to be owning a hard asset because you're still just investing in the stock, and you're not going to get the same tax breaks that I just talked about, but you will get exposure to the real estate. So if you wanted exposure to real estate, example could be VNQ. This is an ETF created by Vanguard that gives you broad exposure to the real estate market in the United States, and it has some income associated with it. So If you just wanted exposure to the real estate market, but you hate the idea of dealing with tenants or buying a property and doing all that stuff, this is an alternative. There are many other real estate funds out there, but I just want you to start understanding the different ways to think about real estate. The fourth asset that you want to consider owning before you turn 50 are some aggressive growth investments. These are a little bit more risky. It'll probably be a smaller piece of a portfolio. The idea being some of these might become bigger home runs, which could lead to more wealth, especially if you're trying to play catch up. Now, you don't want to try to get into this game of getting into more speculative and risky investments because you're behind. The idea being a smaller piece of a portfolio can be a little bit more aggressive as a way for you to have a little bit of fun, but also you kind of balance out your portfolio with some, the keyword some, more speculative investments. Let me go over some examples. If you wanted to get some exposure to cryptocurrency, you could do that. You can go out and buy the actual Bitcoin itself, or if you wanted to buy Bitcoin indirectly through the stock market, which I'm not a huge advocate of, but if you wanted to do that, you could do IBIT. That is an ETF that will give you exposure to the Bitcoin. My thinking is if you wanted to invest in Bitcoin, which is speculative, why not just buy the Bitcoin itself? But that's for you to decide if you wanted exposure to the Bitcoin. Option number 2 is ETF IWM. This is an ETF that's going to give you exposure to the iShares Russell 2000 ETF. This is a group of about 2,000 small cap, smaller United States companies. The idea being that these are trading at a discount, and because they're smaller, they have more upside potential, but it's more risky. Option number 3 is SMH. This is the Van Eck Semiconductor ETF. There's been a lot of talk about more money going into AI and technologies, but you need semiconductors to power all of this AI. This is an ETF that's going to give you exposure to the semiconductor space. The idea being if there's going to be more money going into AI, we're going to need more semiconductors, and this gives you exposure to that space if you believe that's where the economy is moving. Similarly, in order to power all of this AI, to power all this technology, we need more energy. And we're starting to see more talk about nuclear energy. We're starting to see more companies build their own nuclear sites. So if you wanted to get exposure to energy, more specifically nuclear energy, if you believe that's where the economy is going to be moving, there are ETFs that can give you exposure to that. For example, NUKZ is an ETF that specializes in the uranium and nuclear side of the economy. And then another small cap growth one is AVUV. This is kind of an alternative to the IWM side. This is an ETF that's created by Avantis. The idea being this is going to give you exposure to United States small cap value companies, that if you believe that these smaller companies have more room and potential to grow, you can see more potential upside here, or risk for more potential return. And then last but not least is the insurance investment. The idea being you want to have a little bit of diversification. That way, in case something were to happen to the United States dollar, inflation becomes a bigger problem, something happens to the United States economy, that you have some sort of protection outside of just the traditional investments inside of the United States. And there are a couple ways that you can think about this. Option number 1 would be gold. The idea being gold is known as a hedge against inflation. If people are worried about the dollar, gold prices go up. If people are not worried about inflation, gold prices generally fall. So don't buy gold thinking that it only goes up in value. Just understand that gold is also volatile. But if people are concerned about the dollar, inflation, the economy, people generally turn to gold as a hedge. Just so you know, I don't personally think of gold as an investment. I look at it as a way of saving hard money. The reason, your gold doesn't actually produce any value. It just sits there in a drawer and it looks back at you. Versus an investment like Amazon or real estate is actually working to produce value. Amazon is working to produce a product and a profit. Your real estate is providing a roof over somebody's head. So it's very clear how those provide income. But gold is just sitting there. It's not really doing anything, so it's more of a hedge. There's a couple ways to buy gold. You can go out and buy the physical gold, or if you didn't want to buy the physical gold, you can go into the stock market and get exposure to gold with an ETF kind of like GLD. Insurance number 2 is investing internationally. And there's a lot of different ways that you can invest your money internationally if you were in the United States. And I'll talk about how you can do it through the United States stock market. Let's assume that you wanted to pick the safest and the broadest option. You wanted to invest in the total stock market outside of the United States. Well, there's an ETF like VXUS that's going to give you exposure to the total international stock market that is not the United States, to give you some diversity outside of the United States. Or maybe you want to get a little bit more niche. You only want to invest into developed markets. These are the countries in Europe, the countries like Canada and Australia and Japan. Well, there are ETFs out there like VEA that are going to give you exposure to the developed markets around the world. Or maybe you want to get a little bit more niche, and now you want to invest into the emerging markets, the countries like India, China, and Taiwan, and Brazil. If you want to invest in these types of emerging markets, there are many ETFs that give you exposure to that. One example, again by Vanguard, would be VWO, that gives you exposure to these emerging markets. Or if you want to get even more niche, you can invest into specific countries. For example, INDA is going to give you exposure to the Indian economy in India markets. EWJ is going to give you exposure to the Japanese economy. EWW is going to give you exposure to the Mexican economy. The idea being, if there's a specific country or economy that you believe in, there might be a fund that gives you exposure to those companies inside of that country. Again, we're talking more risky here, but it's a hedge and protection outside of the United States economy. This doesn't have to be the hugest part of your portfolio, but now as we get a little bit more speculative, as we get a little bit more on the insurance side, it might be worthwhile for you to think about having some of your portfolio as some insurance in case the United States goes through a recession, the dollar goes through more inflation problems. If you enjoyed this clip and you want to continue your financial education journey, I have another video that I think you'll love. All you got to do is click that button right over there. And for those of you who want to stay up to date on the top finance and business news, you can join Market Briefs, my free financial newsletter, by clicking that button below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.